Hey everyone, welcome. Um, my name is Isabella. I work with marketing here at TATOPT, and I'd like to welcome everyone to another Tech Tuesday. Today, our topic is going to be .NET and Python, and I've got with me Mark Saccolini, who's our founder and CTO, and Mateus, who is our supports leader. So, welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. Like I said, this will be a quick and I think good conversation around two fundamental technologies from our product, which is .NET and Python. So, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, well, thank you. I think probably should start explaining a little bit about the many .NET flavors because we have .NET Standard 4.8, 8, 10, then lots of names around .NET. Okay, so let me start assuming you are new, explaining some key difference. For one, .NET framework is not the same of .NET. I believe you or not. Well, we are not recording, so I can't say it's terrible that Microsoft did with those names. Oh, we are recording. But it's fine. It's true. Sorry. But they renamed .NET Core to Microsoft .NET. What's
No.
not the same of .NET Framework. And start with who gives a name of a technology that starts with a dot. How many hours of programmers have been lost in typing documents with that? I don't know, Mateus. I'm starting this podcast a little too too harsh. Tell me what you think.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you, Mark. Starting a name with the Dutch is like not the best proposal I would think of, but for now, I think we get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the side of the coin, the technology is great. Okay, I'm pretty sure it was not the same group that created technology decide to name and market it.
Probably, Mark.
But gladly, what's most important that the group that created technology is the best one I really ever encountered in my life. I did contact with many real-time custom operating platforms. I did study Java deeply. And among all those frameworks, the .NET by itself is by far the best one I ever used in my life. That's the good part. And by the way, what is this .NET framework? What is all about that? When you have the operating system of the computer, you don't want as much as possible to call directly the native APIs of the operating system. Because if you do that, if you work at that level, you'll be calling not necessarily your software will be compatible from changing from Windows 10 to Windows 11 to Windows 7, much less to Linux or other platforms. So it's not as much as possible you can avoid to do direct calls to the native APIs of the operating systems. So that's the concept of framework. So the .NET is an extension of the operating platform. Same of the .NET framework. I'll explain the difference between them a little bit. Same for Java, by the way. So generically, all those environments, they are a stack you put in top of your operation platform. So when you develop your application, you develop for that platform. So you can develop an application for .NET Framework 4.8. You can create an application for .NET 8, or you can create an application from Java. If you create your application targeting that framework, that application will be able to run whatever is the operating platform on the bottom. And those platforms, they also add some additional abstraction layer. In fact, I should have that drawing beforehand, but I just had the idea to do that now. So I use a simple notepad to explain. So here we have the operating system of the computer. Here on the top, you can put the .NET framework 4.8 or 4.8.1. That is when you are running on Windows. Or you can also put in the top .NET 8 or the new .NET 10 that was out there, which allows to run your application in Windows or Linux, or Mac, or I'm hungry, or Mac OS, or whatever the .NET 8 that supportable platform can do. I will not cover Java, but Java is an alternate technology that also allows that kind of stacking. And as I told you, when we were starting to develop our product, I spent like 1 year studying .NET versus Java. And that's not the topic of this meeting, but .NET's way better for industrial automation. Anyway, and then you have your application that call these environments. In case of that soft, we added even one more layer. We add that soft frameworks here. So we definitely need a beautiful chart of this diagram if you don't have yet. I believe we have, Isabella. Take a look later after
I
the
think we have
meeting.
one,
Have that,
but I will go work on it.
have that little chart with those 4 layers in some place. But anyway, so when you create your application or your solution, you create that using the TouchSoft frameworks methods. That allows you to create the application much quicker. And our frameworks you run either natively Windows using GZ Stack, or if you run in any other operation using this other stack. And finally, we have the operating system. This architecture is great because you have 2 layers of protection. So anything they update on the OS will not have impact on your application, because the first layer of protection is the Microsoft stack itself. And top of that, we have your own products. And those layers, they don't add only protection and portability, but they also add features. Because when Microsoft creates those frameworks, they put new methods, new classes, lots of built-in functionality on top of the operating system. And guess what? When TouchSoft create frameworks, we did that also, having many building blocks to allow to create our application. So when you create an application at the top of hierarchy, you create it more reliable, more quickly, portable, and more secure also. Trying to explain this first concept to a new user, Mateus, any other comments you'd like to add here?
Mark, I believe what you said probably covers it all. It's not that complicated, but it's an interface that would always like kind of build a security type for the user, so the OS shouldn't be anything that he needs to worry about, as long as it's compatible with whatever he's working.
Yes.
Should be good to go. And that top of security that we're putting there, just to be sure that the user doesn't have to update the software with any OS update or anything like that, makes the life easier, even when you're talking production or something that we don't want it ever to stop working or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, it's a good point, because you're in support to know that. we frequently have the question, which versions of Windows or which operating systems do you run? And instead of replying with the operating system or the Windows version of the Linux version, we point the user to those environments here. Because as Matteo pointed out, that software frameworks does not run exactly in one operating system or another. We really don't care if you're using Windows 11 or Windows 7. Of course, your application may care regarding the power of the computer. There are reasons to use one other flavor of Windows. But regarding our application creating top of framework, the target of the application is either .NET 8 when it's multi-platform or .NET 4.8 when it's Windows, okay? And I believe I start to do a really, today I will start assuming you know nothing, but I will go really deep today, okay? And we have the recording, if someone needs to refer later. Explain exactly how was that evolution. The .NET framework was the first framework developed by Microsoft that was only for Windows. And now it's part of the Windows operating system. In some cases, they are starting at 4.8.1, but regarding compatibility, you don't need to worry about that .1, because the applications designed for 4.8 will also run here, okay? But the point is, the .NET 4.8 is part of the Windows operating system. So you don't need to install it anymore. And looking on the proper website, you can find since when it's part of the Windows, but there is a few years now. So Windows 11 for sure has, the last version of Windows 7 they have. Only if you have like an operating system like 5 or 10 years old, Mateus, help me here. Probably the last 5 or 8 years, the .NET 4.8 is already included.
Yeah, probably more than 5. 5 we're already on 2020, so yeah, probably even more.
So
I believe Windows XP, maybe Vista. I believe 7 already has. Yeah, like way back. Yeah.
Anyway, the .NET 4.8, you double check you've had a very old Windows version, but otherwise you don't need to install .NET 4.8. It's part of the operating system. As long you are running Windows, the .NET 4.8 will be there. No install required, okay? And that's the reason by default, our platform, when you create a new solution, you have the option to create application for Windows. When you create an application for Windows, it means we are targeting .NET 4.8, okay? Or if you choose the full name, .NET Framework 4.8. So you don't need to install anything, it runs in any Windows version. And you can run APIs that are specific for Windows, like Active Directory. You can call external products created for Windows. So if you are going to create an application to run in a Windows computer or to exchange libraries and add integration with some other Windows components, it's better to stay here, and that's it, okay? And when should we go to that other options? There are two scenarios. If you want to run in Linux, in Mac, or if you want to create a Docker, also it's a lighter version, the .NET 8.0 is a subset of the .NET framework. It's not the same source code. Microsoft created another source code to be the base of the use they call .NET Core. and now it's .NET 8, .NET 10. And the footprint for memory is smaller, the performance is slightly better, even running Windows. So if you want your application to be multi-platform or run inside a Docker or have the maximum potential performance and memory performance, and you don't need any integration specific to Windows, you can create a multi-platform solution. And that will be right now in .NET 8. I'll explain about 8, 10 in a little bit. Uh, and forget anything here? Mateus, help me here.
I believe that's pretty much covers. Today, like the best use case for multi-platform would be Linux or containers, like you said.
Yes,
We do see them a lot on the support, and it's like you pointed out. I believe you cover pretty much what it does. But usually, we like you said, when someone asks us like, what kind of platform should we use? What kind of OS? We always ask for your familiarity because we pretty much can work with any of those. Just you just need to understand like what's the best for you, and we'll be good to go. Yeah.
exactly. If you are in Windows, keep in mind you can create multi-platform solution. It will run in Windows. It will run a little faster. It will use less memory, but it will not be able to use some Windows APIs that are specific only to Windows. And the other platforms, you did mention Docker. In many cases, when running Linux, you don't need really to install on Linux. You don't need to worry about .NET 8. You just download our Docker image. But that's another topic. We'll not cover that now. So just keep in mind, if you need to install a Linux box, there are two ways to go. You can install .NET 8 and you can install our product directly on the Linux device, or probably just put a Docker image. That's what most of the companies are doing now. Okay, so let's do a little recap. Starting with .NET 4.8. So .NET 4.8, if you go to this Microsoft website, .NET Framework Support Policy, you see the life cycle. So the last version is 4.8.1, and as I told you, 4.8, it's fully compatible. If you create an application for 4.8, it will run, of course, in the 4.8 and what's really important is this end of support. It's not even defined. So the version 3.5 will end support in 2029. Microsoft typically gives 10 years notes before putting something out of support, typically. So the .NET framework would be at minimum for more 10 years supported, but probably much more than that, because the official policy of Microsoft is as long it's installed and supported version of Windows, .NET will be continued to be supported. Okay, that's another reason we have in the factory floor many companies liking still to use Windows servers for some applications. Because if you deploy an application with Windows Server and .NET 4.8, it's likely that will be supported for the next 20 years. And believe me, in this automation, they put applications, they keep the same application for 10, 20 years. That's not uncommon at all. How many, Mateus, your technical supports, have you heard about an application running for how many years?
We had some crazy ones. I believe the last one that I saw, I believe was built in like 2012, something like that, and was still running to this day, like the same application, just with a little bit of tweaking just to get it working today. But it was like 12, 13 years ago.
Well, the product was released, the first version was released 14 years ago.
Yeah.
We cannot go much beyond that. But we
Yeah.
do have applications that were put to run with the very first release 14, 15 years ago, and they are there still in production, and they don't want to upgrade for a couple of practical reasons. Okay. So that's the 4.8, another reason to use the .NET 4.8 and running Windows. Okay, I think that's enough about Windows. Let's talk about 4.8. Because when you go to the .NET 8, the things is a little more dynamic. Because every year, Microsoft is putting something new. You'll see .NET 6, .NET 7, .NET 8, .NET 9, .NET 10. Every year there is a new one. And the end of support is only 1 to 3 years. So let's give some explanation here. The end of support does not mean that you need to throw out your application. It means Microsoft will no longer publish updates for that version. So if I'm deploying now systems with version 8, even allegedly supported up only 2026, November, does not mean that your application no longer run. It means Microsoft will stop patching the operating system for new features. So what you need to do? You need to keep aware of that, and your framework solution don't need to worry because we will make sure it's compatible for the new versions. We are going to release in the first quarter of next year the support for .NET 10. And you see, we are in some cases keeping some releases because Microsoft has what they call the long-term support. And in fact, let me correct a mistake. We are going to release for the next long-term support. It's not this one yet. What Microsoft is doing is from time to time, every 2 or 3 versions, they release what they call the long-term support of .NET. That's the one they have 3 years of support of that operating platform. So unless someone give us a specific requirements that they need for whatever reason, one specific version of .NET, which by the way, I don't see any technical reason for them to need that. But if you have that use case, bring to us. Other than that, we will release the .NET versions that are the long-term support versions, okay? And I thought a few months ago that .NET 10 would be one, but it's not. So probably .NET 11 that you release next year. And next year we'll release also our version. So our intention is to follow the long-term support. And to be clear, when Microsoft changed the name for .NET 8 to the next one, that will be .NET 11, the compatibility of your source code is very, very high. And the compatibility of FrameworX application is very, very likely to be 100% compatible. The only reason I'm not saying it's 100% compatible, I cannot really say that for something that was not even released yet. But that's the expectation, because we take care that your code, your modules, you don't need to worry about this very quick pace of Microsoft. This very quick pace of Microsoft was mainly aiming cloud applications that runs on the cloud. So it's not the user updates even his computer. The cloud services only in the clouds, they are every year being updated with whatever Microsoft have that's new, that makes sense to cloud side solutions. The solutions on the factory floor Of course, I'm not going to replace the OS or the framework every year. It will not be feasible at all to do that. So this fast pace was mainly aiming cloud solutions. So the factory floor will do the recommendation to follow the LTS. Isabella, any questions on that? Mateus, any comments before we move on to the next topic?
No, I think this is key. Just kind of highlighting again, we've been talking a lot about future proof, and why our software is thought out not just for now but for the future. And I think being built on .NET is kind of the base for that.
Yes. They have a very good pace of updates, very compatible among all the updates. Okay. And there is another concept that's useful for you to know. It's more a developer concept, okay? But I think it's useful to share. I just explained that the .NET Framework 4.8 and the .NET 2, and the .NET 8, they're not the same thing. So I just explained this is one framework, this is another one. And our product runs on both. It means we create a product 2 times, or when Microsoft puts the version 10, we're going to have to redo our entire product. Of course not. Isabella give the hint to the public. She no. Yeah. So how does that work? I think I have a good image here in some place. Yeah. This image is a little old from 2017, but it's still valid. The only thing sometimes when you pick up an old image, just keep in mind that .NET Core was renamed to be only .NET. Okay, when you find .NET Core, I personally prefer .NET Core because you have .NET Standard, .NET Framework, and .NET Core. Now we have .NET Standard, .NET Framework, and just .NET. Anyway, so how does it happen? Microsoft created a specification that they call the .NET Standard 2.0. And XML Standard 1.0 is for graphical objects, okay? So this one is for C# codes, and this one is for graphical elements. But let's start in this one. This .NET Standard 2.0 is not a full framework. It's a specification of classes, library, functions that are compatible across all flavors of .NET. Look how beautiful is that. So if a class is defined to be compatible with .NET Standard 2.0, it means this class, this source code, will run in .NET 4.8. It will run in .NET 8 and .NET 10. It will be compatible across all versions of .NET 10, 9, 8, 7. All those flavors of the .NET, this class, this method will be compatible at the source code level. And the number of variables and classes that are compatible in this specification is huge. There is a lot there. So most of the framework's products is in fact created to .NET Standard 2.0. That's why our software, the same code base, can easily run in another system or another one. Okay, that's the trick that allow us to be compatible and keep the pace on that, as this diagram is showing here. The .NET Standard is the first layer in top of the both native or cloud APIs, and then the custom graphical AIs, the custom components. You may have another version of framework here on top. But the .NET Standard is the first foundation, and that where we try to keep. I think that's all on that, Mateus. Anything else you may think?
No, I believe that's the most important thing. And I believe you talk a very important topic because a lot of customers has this crazy idea that we kind of rebuild the whole software from the ground up just to change the .NET frameworks, and and not that it wouldn't be possible, but it would be like a lot of work that we don't need to do because we can just use something that is compatible and just build from the ground up on that, and then just build on any .NET on top of it. So I believe that's the most important thing. But like you said, it's something that it relates more to the developers. So the final user doesn't even have to worry about it.
No.
You just need to understand like where do I want to run my application, and just focus on that, and you shouldn't have any issues. Yeah.
And your diagram in top of the operating system would be a good idea, perhaps to put also some hardware.
Perfect. And do you want to do anything else on .NET, or can we talk a little bit about Python now?
I think as Mateus was talking, I was making some notes here so I don't forget.
Right.
Another thing important about .NET 2.0 is it's also the same code base to be compatible to WebAssembly.
Mm.
You talk about WebAssembly in the meetings, the technology that allows to run .NET code inside the browser. And to be able to be more compatible, there is one restriction, but it's a simple one, that we do the compiling for C# 7.3. Okay. I don't even know the latest version of C#. Don't know if you can do a quick Google there, Mateus. I think it's 11 or something like that. Do a Google and let us know the last version of the language definition.
I believe we already are on the 14 version.
14. I don't know,
C#
it's growing
13,
like crazy. Okay.
yeah.
But most of those new versions, they add new syntax, they simplify a syntax here and there. But frankly speaking, to your automation application, it will be overkill. Oh no, I really want to use that new feature. You can, but in general, by our program experience, does not pay off. If you keep your code compatible for now, unless there is a very specific use case that you need that one feature from C# 12, okay. But other than that, when you ask ChatGPT to create codes, put that additional requirements, it's a good cost benefits not to use some specific trick syntax, but have the code more compatible. And sometimes those improvements in the syntax that make the code smaller and smaller and smaller, what's good, but not necessarily readable. So it's not always to use the latest feature of the language. And code readable would be the perfect bridge, Isabella, to talk about Python.
There you go.
Because
Scripting.
why we need Python if you have C#? Okay. Because let's start talking, and I'll say one or two, Mateus, and be prepared that after I say one or two, I'll ask you to say one or two more. What things where C# is much better than Python, frankly? For one, the performance, because C# is a compiled language, and Python is not. So a C# Python can run 10 times faster than C# codes can run 10 times faster than Python. What else, Mateus?
I believe there are a couple of things that we can talk about, but pretty much Python, it's better for you to just kind of glance into it and understand what the code does. It's a bit simpler on the user interface, But like you said, whenever you have something that is simple to see, use, and understand, the machine doesn't have this facility. So the machine will have some impacts on performance. It's not the best. And sometimes you need to kind of integrate some outer systems or outer scripts to make everything work. You do need some libraries that make your life easier with Python. And of course, we do have some libraries in C Sharp, but it's all managed in a more concise way than Python. But as today we are going forward even more into the LLMs and into the AI field, Python has become a very used language because it kind of makes easier to work with that kind of data with something that is more human readable and something like that. So it's important for us to have that compatibility and have that to say to the user if you're familiar with it, if you already use it, you don't need to redo all your codes in C sharp because that's the only thing we do. You can just use your own Python codes and it would work just fine. So I believe it's important to have that type of compatibility and that type of free use for the user. He can just choose which is best. Even knowing that Python is not like the best language, today's computer are so powerful that even though it's not like the best performance in the world, you can still use it to do something that it's a little bit heavier and you wouldn't notice the computer being used at all. So it's nice for us to give the opportunity to the user to use that if he's familiar with it. Yeah.
And you said a key point, best performance. In
Yeah.
one point, you said best language, but then you're correct to say the best performance language, because the best language depends on what you need. Okay, if you're doing quick prototyping, and if you know Python or want to learn a easy language, Python is very good for that, because it was created to be very human readable, the codes, and very easy, lots of libraries. And I give an example. If you need a number, okay, you just create a variable and start using directly. You don't need to worry if it's an integer, if it's a floating point, if it has decimal points or not. You start to use our variables and the Python engine will take care. So is it better or it's worse than C sharp? That in C sharp, if you try to pick up a variable that is an integer, receive the value of a variable x that is a double, you are going to have a compiling error in this case. It will not accept because you are losing potentially some resolution here. When you do this attribution, if this is 1.2, the result here will be only 1. So what's better, a language that you need to define all the types and do all the verifications, or a language that the objects are created dynamically, they adjust themselves to our codes, and they take care of everything automatically? What's your opinion, Isabella? It's a tricky question. What is the best one?
Depends.
Good. You are right. Depends. Depends on what you need. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very common that they create some advanced applications in Python, but when they are trying to scale to the enterprise level or to put on the clouds, that they start to have some performance limitations. Sometimes they migrate that application from Python to C sharp. But when they do that, they have 1, 2, 3 years of development with a more simple language before they had to find that barrier. Okay. So it's a very important option to support both. But that said, if you are a C sharp programmer and you do C sharp as you talk, there is no real need, frankly, to learn Python. Okay. Unless there is a specific library you need to call from Python, that would be a reason. But if you are doing C sharp programming, there is not really much motivation to change from here to here because the learning step here is higher. But after you do, you can be as productive as. If you saw any YouTube video saying that you cannot be as productive in C# as you can in Python, frankly, that person does not know enough about C#. Otherwise, you not put that statement. Anyway, so that many reasons that's very important to support Python, and we do. So in our software, when you are going to create a task, okay, you can create or a class, doesn't matter if that one is Python, C# or VB.NET. And if it's in Python, you can go to code editor and you can see those Python code. You can even call an external library, or you can put the Python codes directly inside the system. You can put your code or Python code directly in our code editor. Last week, we did a presentation, Unified Design, Isabella, and I could not believe myself. I spent 1 hour talk about these environments, and I did not show this little button that open your code in another external window.
That's okay. We'll show you now.
Yeah. And by the way, probably there are many of the features about our designer that I cover. Perhaps we need to do one section that will be much more boring, but much more complete, that have a huge checklist of how hidden secrets, it's not exactly a secret, it's the top menu, but even so, that we need to really explain a little more in detail all those menu options and many features in our designer that I do not cover. Okay. So about the installation, we have in our documentation a very detailed explanation how to install Python. So remember, where is that, Mateus? I just search for Python here.
Yeah, I believe if you just search for Python, you're gonna find it. But I can get you the exact link.
I found here. And by the way, one thing that's nice about our application is that the search index, they allow you to really go very easily across everything about that. Because, for instance, on Python, we have a few features on Python. We have an example of the integration. We have the technology. There are many parts, many aspects that I'll cover in the documentation. We even have a tutorial. That's this one here. It's under tutorials, technology learning tutorial, that give you step by step, starting from the installation. And make sure you follow those steps to the letter. We used to have lots of support on the installation Python. What else the typical technical support on Python, Mateus?
The most part that we had on Python was about the installation, but as soon as we kind of made this documentation and integrated into it, those questions have not been appearing anymore. So I believe that fixed a lot of the issues. But to use Python inside the software is actually pretty simple as long as you have the Python interpreter installed. So in the last days, we haven't seen any support about Python. It's more like about complexity or scale. So it's not like about how to use and what to do. It's more like how do I scale this into like a bigger, or I don't know, how to chunk this code into different types of Python files and so on. But from the user experience, I believe as long as we have that documentation, we haven't had any more troubles with it yet.
And that documentation is has this explanation here, of course. I will just highlight is that after you install Python, you need to put this configuration here where Python is installed in your computer. So this server, if you are accessing a remote computer and doing the local engineering, if you are running all local, those two paths will be the same. That's the reason you have two, you may doing remote engineering. So you are on the design in one computer and the runtime in another computer. And why you need to do this configuration? Because a cool feature we have on Python that each solution can use one different Python version. Sometimes we need some libraries that requires one specific version of Python. We don't care because when you do the solution configuration here in solution settings, you define which Python engine each application will use. Okay. And we have in our sites the example, this one here. Oh no, it's not here. It's on example. Python example. Python.NET integration example. It's here. So if it's under solution examples, of course. And tell us, Mateus, we just download those 3 files, and what we need to do after that.
Yeah, the main thing here is that you download those 3 files and have them in the same folder, because when you have the Py files here inside this solution, we point out that those files are in the same path. But of course, that is not a rule. So if you want to have your Python files in another path, you can. But the thing is, in this example specifically, we did point out like the Python files are in the same folder as the project. So as long as you download everything and have everything in the same folder, you should be good to go.
And also the demo is supposed to have those specific names, okay?
Yeah.
Probably we should show what this demo does, because it's the very well to explain the main way to do integration with Python. It's 4 simple ways. It would be 2 minutes each one. Shell integration. So when you do the shell integration, 448108, perfect. When you do the shell integration, the code looks like that one. So it'll be Python shell basic. Here we are populating the arguments and calling an external Python shell. So in this code, you are activating an external Python file to execute in their own memory space, giving some parameters of that code and getting the results. That's simple. And I'll explain about that output later. No. That's what you call the Python shell execution. Another way, it's what you call the standard integration. So let's go to our code example and see what will be the standard. The standard, you pretty much do your codes here, okay? And do you have your computers a code that's a little more complex than that to show them, Mateus?
Yeah, I did one.
You in a bit to share our screen. Let me finish the 4 types, and then you go back to that one.
Perfect.
Because this one is very important, because you do the Python programming inside our editor. So when you deploy the application, we don't need those external Python files. You can use our engineering protection to protect your IP, defining who will access that code. We export that to JSON files. So if you want to do source code, version control, you can do very easily. So this way of integration, it's really very important. You just do the Python programming directly in our code editor. And Why it's saying it's locked? I cannot edge here. That's because I have that code open in this other window. If happens to you, now you know the reason. I pop up this specific code to be edged in this other window. Another way to do the integration is Python and .NET interop. Python and .NET interop means I can from Python net intermixed. What that means? It means I can, from a C# application, I can call a Python class, or I can call from Python, I can call .NET. So when you're creating classes, either in Python or C# or VB.NET, you can call from one environment to another one using our classes. And finally, a little more advanced integration that we have what you call a data access. A data access allows you to create a Python code that you run completely outside our environments, connecting to a remote server. So if you want to create a completely independent Python application, connecting to a FrameworX runtime, and getting data, writing data, doing the interaction with that's what you need to do. The only thing to make sure you do that properly is if you try to write the value and it's not right, you need to verify your application and eventually modify that, because we have a cost of visibility. That means private is not accessible for external applications, protected is read-only, and public is both read and writes. Okay, that's some configuration that's important for you to have. So the 4 ways to access the environments: call external Python applications, do the Python programming inside our environments, intermix Python and .NET classes, or do an external Python application calling data from a framework server. So I will allow you share your screen, Mateus, and to show some Python code with more than 2 lines.
Sure.
And meanwhile, Isabella, you saw that presentation last year with previous releases when first introducing those technologies. Any other comments that you believe I did not cover this time?
No, I think this was good. I would just highlight again that you can mix Python and .NET, which I think is very unique to us. So I think it's worth highlighting.
And I believe one of the strong suits of this example that we have, Mark, is also that you can kind of extrapolate those codes and check the performance, because even though every one of them are using Python, we are calling the Python in different ways, and that can have different responses in the system. So if you're looking for something with a better performance or something that evaluate the code in a different environment or something like that, it's good for you to use that example to understand like what's the difference between calling Python inside our software, calling outside our software, and integrating with .NET and so on.
And by the way, talk about performance. There are some tools out there that they use Python 2.0 or Python or Jython 2.0. Our performance in this case is even higher because using Python 3, that's much faster than Python 2. So Python 2 or Jython 2, Python Java 2 is an older version. Python 3 is much faster than Python 2, and Sharp can be even faster. But just Python 3, by the way, is much better than Python 2. And before we start sharing your display, Mateus, I see my one is the one that is still shared. If you go to our product documentation and the platform overview, technology foundation, core technologies, we present a little more information about this Python .NET integration. In this case, at a concept level, how we do it's here. I explain the technology. Okay, so this entire section here, technology foundation, is not going on the details on the configuration. Is explaining the underlying concepts and technologies. This entire session.
Perfect. And let me just real quick. We have a question here on chat. First, we have a question from Dan about the AI assistant, but Eduardo is answering that one for you on chat, Dan. And I got this other one, which is, are the Python scripts always called synchronously? Or async calls possible?
When you do the shell execution, yes, it's called synchronously. But when you call from the client side to the server sides, we automatically do async. And if you use the async syntax from C# to call a Python async class, to call an async bytecode or the equivalent in Python, yes, you can do async calls through programming language. But if it's a client calling a server, we even do that automatically for you.
Awesome. And Mateus, if you can share screen, we can show them the code. But in the meanwhile, just kind of, I don't want us to go too much over time, but Dan asked this question, and it relates to scripting a little bit differently, which is if our FrameworX AI assistant, which you can find
right now, the AI can only reply questions about the documentation.
Perfect.
We are working on MCP tool and extension to do design things. We shall have a preview of that technology this year and a final release next year. We're going to create also 4 applications using AI.
Awesome.
Right now, the CBT is only to help on the documentation.
Yeah, but just so you
guys
guys
write some codes here and there, but it's not specific designed for that yet.
Perfect, but it is on the roadmap, so we'll let you know, Dan, as soon as that is done.
Very, very soon.
Cool.
Can you share your screen, Mateus? It's
the
bottom.
Okay, let me share my screen here. Let me just see.
Because then I think that can be our last little thing, because we are almost at the hour, and I don't want us to go too much overboard.
Okay, it should be pretty simple.
And just a quick thing, Claudia from Kenya, welcome. You can definitely get a recorded video. This whole session will be available at our YouTube channel as soon as the live is over. And there you go, Mateus, you can show that one.
Perfect. Now we have it.
Okay, so I did this code in the beginning of this meeting, so I wouldn't say it's a lot more complicated, but we do have a couple lines extra. And what I tried to do was a simple interpretation on how to get some values from your computer. So I'm doing here some OEE calculations.
Can you zoom in for us, Mateus? I can barely see.
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
So I made a couple of different Python functions here. So we have save diff, we have availability, performance, quality, OE. So those are pretty much simple calculations that we have in the OE environment, in the industrial environment. So you should be familiar with some of those guys. But of course, when I'm passing parameters here, I'm generating those values randomly. So we have something to show to you guys. But this is just a way to show you that we can expand the Python code much more. And of course, I could do this externally. I could generate a Python file and integrate that. But I wanted to show you that you can generate some complexity even though we are inside the FrameworX environment. Okay, so we can create a bunch of different methods here in Python. We define them and then just call them. So I'm passing some random values to those variables. Okay, and then I'm doing some of those evaluations, so availability, performance, quality, OEE, and then I'm passing that back to a tag. that I have in my project. So if I open my screen here, and I use the same example, I just added some things. So if I execute that file, we're gonna see that we're gonna generate a bunch of random OEE values here. And of course, I could plot them. I could use a lot of designing tools to make this a lot more friendly, a lot more cool to see. But it's cool to understand that we can have Python to do a lot of the things that we could use any other language. And like I said today, go ahead,
And
Mark.
interrupt you before you go to the runtime. Go back to the configuration tool. I believe we have a developers playground that you did not mention.
Yeah, you mean using the task here?
Exactly. If you do the play button there.
Mm-hmm. Just like I did. So if
Yeah.
you use that, you can see that it kind of executes the Python shell. We can see some informations about it. We can see any errors, of course, and that helps you while developing Python. But like I said, you could use some Visual Code. You could develop this out externally from that
And
software. And it's
clear
very
exactly what's happening there, Matteo, sorry, because that's important.
Mhm.
Watching there, and it's cut a little bit off the screen because of the zoom. But what does happen when you, not the zoom of the main window anyway, but what's happening here, okay, it was my computer, sorry. When you hit that play button in the top, show down the play button, it will run the Python code inside our design environments. You don't even need to go for the runtime. So it will run the Python code inside the configuration tool. And here on the output, you have the results of that Python code. So another benefit of Python as a simple language, you have a little developer playground area that you don't even need to run the application. You can stay on the designer, print the results, testing your functions even before running them in runtime.
Yeah. That's very helpful. But like I said, if you're not familiar with it and you want to use any other tools to run your Python and test your Python, it should work as well. But I think it's very important what Mark points out because we do give you all the tools to just use our software. And one thing that Mark talked earlier that I believe it's even important is that in our software you can kind of build a whole security around your code. So if you don't want your final users to be messing around or even learning the ideas that you put on your code, you can secure all those Python codes with logins, with users, and that's something that you wouldn't have with an external Python file as well. Okay.
I will give you, Isabella, so you can even put when you do the summary and description of this video, the highlights. You can intermix Python and .NET. Each one call it other. And in Python, you can use our Python editor. You can use another editor and copy paste the code to be inside our application. Or you can, from our application, call external Python files. So it's all, and external Python files can call our application. So it's all the four scenarios. You need to make sure they have, and of course, your application can be a mix of those scenarios based on your requirements. And I think let's wrap up, Mateus. And I have some good and bad news for you, Mateus. What you prefer?
I prefer the bad first, so then we can celebrate later.
The bad news, which by the way is also good news, I like it so much, your example, that you have one more work to do now, is to make that example part of the official example. That's our bad news. Because of you did a good work, you have now more work this afternoon. Become this display we create with that OE calculation and put that also integrating in our standard Python example, why not?
Sure, I can use the OEE displays that we have, so we can have something much beautiful to show.
Yeah, but just hold yourself not to put too much thing, because the examples, by the way, talk with the public. You see that our examples are very simple. The displays are very simple, and that's in purpose. because when we do those examples, we want to focus on the example itself, on the technology, so you don't get lost with too many features. So
Sure.
what would be important to put in that example, keep the display simple, add on the main page one more button there, and on the tutorial, let's make sure they use that code to use the play button so they can test the application designer tool. Let's make sure to teach the users using that example to use the designer as a playground area to do the validation of the Python codes, not even have to go to runtime.
Okay, sure. I believe that's a great idea. I
Okay.
like doing the example, so it would be nice to play a little role.
Now it will be official part of
No,
the.
Okay.
this was perfect. And I just wanted to let you guys know this whole session is recorded on our YouTube channel. And that if you guys have any more questions about Python or anything else, you can join us in Discord to kind of continue the conversation. The link is already on chat. You can also find it at our website. And we're available for you for any questions and things like that. Um, I'd like to thank you both, Mark and Mateus. Thank you so much for being here, for doing this. I thought that this was a very good session. Like I said, those two, I think, are key technologies for us. So good to have a deeper dive into it. Any last thoughts? Or
No, thank you.
awesome. So
Thank you.
once
Thank you.
again, thank you all. Thank you guys, and we'll see you. We'll see you soon. Bye
Bye.
bye.
See you guys. Bye bye.